I want everyone to walk away with the understanding that what we talk about today, it will be very specific to certain states. So you can't take it and apply it to every single state. There is no one size fits all. I'll have people sometimes jump on my YouTube comments and be like, oh, this is not how this works. This is bad information, blah, blah, blah. So, you know what I do? I go get my screenshots and I go get my, I document everything. And I have so many, testimonials and endorsements and reviews over the years. So I just start shooting that in the comments. Like, okay, watch this, read this, check this out here. Because again, it is very, very different. What works in Texas won't apply in a place like, for example, I don't know, Illinois. And then sometimes even when states are right next to each other, like Illinois and Indiana, totally different process. So just keep that in mind. There's a difference between a lien and a deed. Buying the lien doesn't make you the owner. Because somebody, and I'm gonna probably have to say this a few more times as well, buying the lien just gives you an interest in the property, which you can then convert to ownership at a later time after redemption has passed. Buying the lien doesn't mean you can go knock on anybody's door and be like, oh, I just bought your taxes, or oh, do you intend to move, or oh, we're going to evict you. Like, all of that stuff is against the law. And then not only is it against the law, but I would consider it to be a health hazard, because nobody want nobody knocking on their door talking about you bought their taxes. And they still have a redemption time frame. The redemption time frame is the time that they have to come up with all the money that they owe and redeem the property. That's what that means. And if you're buying a tax lien, then there is a redemption. It's just a question of how long it is. The shortest redemption that I'm aware of is 120 days. That's in Indiana. We'll talk about that in a second. Longest redemption times that I know of, Florida, if you're buying a condo, can be very lengthy, and Alabama is over 3 years. So it can be a very, very long time. And what I tell people, because I talk to people who live in Alabama, they say, I want to buy in Alabama, that's where I live. I said, well, I understand that, but unless you have money that you don't need for 3 years or more, then that's probably not going to be the best state for you to start with. So again, no authority to do anything with this property. You should figure out your ideal exit strategy like today. So one of the things that I want you to walk away from here today, like I like to give specific actionable items. Figure out your exit strategy. Are you a landlord? Are you a property flipper? Are you a wholesaler? Like, you got to know that up front. And again, the redemption period, you definitely have to know that up front. We talk about that in just a second. And your duties during the redemption period. So the duties actually vary depending upon the type of property that you buy and where you buy it at. If you buy a traditional tax lien property in a place like, let's say, Illinois, if you buy a tax lien property there's nothing for you to do during redemption but just wait. And then a lot of people suggest that you pay the current property tax bills as they come due. So you don't have to do it, but it's good practice. And if the property is not redeemed, you're going to have to do that regardless. Okay, so you don't have to worry about back taxes from years ago, but any bill that comes after you have won the tax lien to the bid, you should pay those. Okay, if you buy in a place like Texas, which is, and I'm going to break this down a little bit more in just a second. If you buy in a place like Texas, Texas is what's called a redeemable deed state. So Texas sells deeds. Deeds mean you are the owner, okay? But the original owner still has a redemption time frame where they can come back and kind of cancel the sale. So with Texas, you can actually go to, depending upon the county, you can actually, go to some of the properties and you can change the locks, you can rent properties, you can start to do minor improvements that are needed. You could do a lot of different things. But if the owner comes up with all the money, plus the penalties, plus the interest, plus the amount that you spent for your improvements, plus the attorney's fees, then they can still rescind the sale. So that's really not bad news, because you're still getting all your money back. You're not losing anything, but that's just how the process works there. All right. Moving on, and this is where I wanted to kind of take a minute to pause at. So lien sales, redeemable deed, and then non-redeemable deed. So lien sales, again, straight tax lien certificate, Indiana, Illinois, are the two examples that I have here. Redeemable deed means that, yes, you buy the deed, but the owner can still come back and say, hey, I have all the money now, and they cancel the sale. Non-redeemable deed means that once you buy it, it's a done deal. It ain't no redemption, ain't no talking, ain't no back and forth. There's nothing. It's a done deal. And California is a good example of that. California is pricey. We'll talk about that in just a second, but it is a deed state, and California has a lot of sales online. I just looked at the sale for Los Angeles County. This was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And California, I mean, you can still find deals because tax lien investing is a great way to find properties below market value. But we are still talking about California, which is like another planet. So yes, there are deals, but they still require like 6 figures to get started. So if you don't got that type of money, then you can't obviously start in California. So how do you make money? It's the $1,000,000 question. So obviously this is a kind of a mini breakdown of the process. You go to a tax lien auction, and again, these can be live or they can be online. And obviously you're going to win a bid. You should have your attorney. You should hire an attorney rather once you receive the certificate. So most of the sales that you'll attend, you'll pay for the winning bid. And again, when you win a bid, the money is due generally, let's just say the same day by close of business. In Texas, however, actually in Tarrant County, I'm going to this sale August the 6th. They give you 1 hour. And if you don't pay them within 1 hour, then they put the property back up in the auction, and then they bar you from future sales, and you are fined 25% of the amount that you were supposed to pay. So if your winning bid was $10,000 and you just like, oh, I don't have $10,000 or I changed my mind, they're like, cool, you could change your mind. Run us that $2,500 as a penalty for basically wasting our time. Okay. So they want their money within an hour. But most places it's close of business. And generally it's cashier's check, money order, of course, cash. Cash is king. This is real estate. A couple of smaller counties may take a personal check, but I wouldn't bank on that. Like, I would just have cashier's checks and money orders on hand. Figure out your exit strategy up front. Figure out your business structure. So Gerald, you may want to chime in here too. I don't say the general consensus, but a lot of people will say things like, once you get each property, each property should be in a separate LLC.
Right.
So that's one strategy. And if you're going to do that, obviously that costs money. That's when you would set up something like the Series LLC, which is what I did not too long ago. But I want you guys I don't want you to spend time I don't want you to lose time trying to get every little detail ironed out up front, because you can always transfer the property into your LLC after you're the owner. So there's always that back door. What were you going to say, Gerald?
That was the one thing that I get consistently, Danielle, is do I need and this is for everyone that's on right now, and I'm pretty sure that Danielle, everyone, the thought is, do I need an LLC to go ahead and get started? And Danielle just gave you the answer. You can go ahead and transfer your property to an LLC. Don't let not having one stop you from getting involved in real estate. Yeah. When I started, I did not have that. I was struggling. I was a struggling investor. I did not begin with an LLC, but I have a couple right now. And so I'm just if you're starting and you don't have an LLC, you want to get one, but don't stress if you don't have one.
Yeah. And you'll hear me say that again, because a lot of y'all be looking for reasons not to do stuff. They're like, oh, I thought I needed a real estate license. Right. Like, no, you don't. Oh, I thought I needed an LLC. But you don't. Now, if you have the money, by all means, set it up, because in some places it's as cheap as $100. But if that's, an issue for you, or you're someone who struggles with, do I do it myself? Do I do LegalZoom, hire an attorney? Then just, get to the sale, learn the process, figure out acquire a winning bid, and you can transfer that property into a trust, an LLC, your mama name, whatever you want to do after the fact. Okay. And then again, your options for making money: are you going to rent it for profit? Are you going to wholesale it for profit? Or are you going to renovate and flip it? I would think everybody here knows what wholesaling is, but just briefly, wholesaling is basically selling the property for less money. You don't do any work to it generally, but you sell it, you make some profit, but you'll make as much of a profit as you would if you were to actually renovate and flip the property. I like wholesaling because, it's quick, it's easy. You kind of rinse and repeat and go on to the next sale, but it just depends on personal preference, depends on your money and your access to credit. If that's an issue, if credit and cash are an issue, then I would say renovation and flipping is probably going to be out of the question.
Yep.
All right. What do you need to get started? So again, you don't need none of this stuff. You don't need your real estate license. You don't need a general contractor's license. You don't have to live in the state where the sale is located. That's another myth that I hear all the time. I actually talked to a guy one time and he was like, oh, I want to do this. My uncle told me I have to live in the state. And he won't, that's all, he won't really give me any information. Like, well, either your uncle is lying to you purposely or he really doesn't know. But he says that he's this big time investor. I'm like, I know he knows you don't have to live in the state. Like there are actually people from out of the country investing in tax lien sales. So how dare you be a resident of the United States and you have people from China that becoming more and more common, parts of certain countries in Africa. There's a guy I know who comes in, drives down from Canada. He goes to the sale in Indiana. So how dare you have these people outside of the country investing and you are not doing it? Like, how are we doing that? Right? And also, you don't have to own property. You don't have to own property in that state at all. You could just, this is like the last frontier. Like, I mean, that sounds extreme, but this is like one of the things that you want to get in while you can, because some of the states are making it to where only institutional investors can go to the sale. One of the states that comes to mind, I think it's New York. I'm gonna get to it in just a second. It's one of the counties in New York where right now only institutions can bid on these properties. There's another place where they only sell blocks of properties. so if you don't have money to buy a whole block, then that's not. So that's not that common just yet, but it may be. And just from what history has taught us, typically when we start to get in on things in a larger and larger fashion, the rules often change. Just, keeping it real. That's what happens sometimes. So if you want to do it, like this will be a great time for you to get started. So my method, and what I tell everybody, I go the extra mile, execute regardless. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you're going to set a date to buy your first tax lien certificate and you want to go to a sale, then go to the sale. Like, stop letting things like, my so-and-so got sick, or so-and-so passed away, or I ran out of money, or I have all these issues, because those issues ain't never going to go nowhere. Like, it's always going to be something. I have people that I worked with for the past 2 years and I stay on them. Okay, it's been 2 years now. Like, what you gonna do? Like, you pay for this training, you know what to do, you got everything together. Like, when are you going to get in the game? And then for a lot of them, they're saying that this year is gonna be the year. But you have to make it happen regardless, because life is always going to be there. That's just what it is. Only work with knowledgeable professionals, hint, hint, like myself, like Gerald. Make time in your schedule for due diligence. Like, don't be so thirsty to be a tax lien investor that you just buy anything. I have seen that, not really from my clients, actually from two. I got two out of a few hundred that just messed up in that regard. And what happened with those two, is that they won tax lien bids and they didn't do anything else. They didn't get an attorney. They did nothing. And so when you do that, you basically, you lose your money. It's not an automatic process to go from lien to deed. It actually is quite a few steps involved, which the attorney will do on your behalf. So if you just do nothing, you've just basically taken that money that you paid and flushed it down the toilet. All right, so I'm going to go through some of these success stories because we are moving at a pretty good clip. And I know it's a whole bunch of questions in there, right, Gerald?
Yeah, well, we got 2 Q&As, 2 in chat, so.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
That's not bad.
So Ava, she got 2 winning bids, $4,000 and $5,000. A client named India got her first winning bid for $1,300. Steffi got 3 for $1,300, $1,700, and $1,100.
Wow.
Ty got a brick 2 unit for $3,900. I helped about 20 or 25 folks back last year acquire. Everyone got a $500 winning bid. So that is a real thing, that you pay $500. What's not a real thing is that it's in move-in condition. And I'm saying that because I think most people know this, or should know it, I should say, but you're not gonna find your dream house for $500. And for all the money that you need, like there's attorney's fees. Somebody type this in the comments, wherever, between $800 to $1,200 per property is kind of the average. And that's, again, it's per property. So it's not as, I had somebody tell me, well, why can't I just pay one fee if I win 5 bids? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a relevant question. Like, they want their money. Like, they're going to be doing 5 times the work. So why do you want them to just get paid once for it? You know, the process is quite convoluted. And so, I mean, there's just briefly what the attorney does. They're responsible for doing the title search. They're responsible for finding out every person who has an interest in the property and notifying them about the sale. They schedule all the court dates. They attend the court dates on your behalf. You don't ever have to go to a court date unless you just want to go. I've never been to a court date yet. And I've gotten deeds to multiple tax lien properties by this point. I've never shown up in court. But they do all those tedious steps to make it to where you can just sit back and wait. Now, you don't have to have an attorney, but if you don't have one, then that means you're relying exclusively on yourself. And for me, I don't want to learn tax lien law. Like, it's way too much going on. And I want to be able to point to someone and say, hey, you know, you messed this up, or you didn't do X, Y, and Z, and have like a buffer, so to speak, so that you're not relying exclusively on yourself and your YouTube research, because your YouTube research and Google research is cool. But like right now for Indiana, I'll do a random search on Indiana, and I'll say, you know, what's the redemption period for Indiana? And all the websites I see will have like a year, and very few websites, if any, will mention the March sale and the May sale, which has a 120-day redemption. That's not out there. Wow. So Google and YouTube is cool up to a certain point, but it is not everything. All right. And then my reviews on Facebook, there's about, I want everyone to walk away with the understanding that what we talk about today, it will be very specific to certain states. So you can't take it and apply it to every single state. There is no one size fits all. I'll have people sometimes jump on my YouTube comments and be like, oh, this is not how this works. This is bad information, blah, blah, blah. So you know what I do? I go get my screenshots and I go get my, I document everything. And I have so many, testimonials and endorsements and reviews over the years. So I just start shooting that in the comments. Like, okay, watch this, read this, check this out here. Because again, it is very, very different. What works in Texas won't apply in a place like, for example, I don't know, Illinois. And then sometimes even when states are right next to each other, like Illinois and Indiana, totally different process. So just keep that in mind. There's a difference between a lien and a deed. Buying the lien doesn't make you the owner. Because somebody, and I'm gonna probably have to say this a few more times as well, buying the lien just gives you an interest in the property, which you can then convert to ownership at a later time after redemption has passed. Buying the lien doesn't mean you can go knock on anybody's door and be like, oh, I just bought your taxes, or oh, do you intend to move, or oh, we're going to evict you. Like, all of that stuff is against the law. And then not only is it against the law, but I would consider it to be a health hazard, because nobody knocking on their door talking about you bought their taxes. And, they still have a redemption time frame. The redemption time frame is the time that they have to come up with all the money that they owe and redeem the property. That's what that means. And if you're buying a tax lien, then there is a redemption. It's just a question of how long it is. The shortest redemption that I'm aware of is 120 days. That's in Indiana. We'll talk about that in a second. Longest redemption times that I know of, Florida, if you're buying a condo, can be very lengthy, and Alabama is over 3 years. So it can be a very, very long time. And what I tell people, because I talk to people who live in Alabama, and they say, I'm going to buy in Alabama, that's where I live. I said, well, I understand that, but unless you have money that you don't need for 3 years or more, then that's probably not going to be the best state for you to start with. So again, no authority to do anything with this property. You should figure out your ideal exit strategy like today. So one of the things that I want you to walk away from here today, like I like to give specific actionable items, figure out your exit strategy. Are you a landlord? Are you a property flipper? Are you a wholesaler? Like, you got to know that up front. And again, the redemption period, you definitely have to know that up front. We talk about that in just a second. And your duties during the redemption period. So the duties actually vary depending upon the type of property that you buy and where you buy it at. If you buy a traditional tax lien property in a place like, let's say, Illinois, if you buy a tax lien property there's nothing for you to do during redemption but just wait. And then a lot of people suggest that you pay the current property tax bills as they come due. So you don't have to do it, but it's good practice. And if the property is not redeemed, you're going to have to do that regardless. Okay, so you don't have to worry about back taxes from years ago, but any bill that comes after you have won the tax lien to the bid, you should pay those. okay? If you buy in a place like Texas, which is, and I'm going to break this down a little bit more in just a second. If you buy in a place like Texas, Texas is what's called a redeemable deed state. So Texas sells deeds. Deeds mean you are the owner, okay? But the original owner still has redemption time frame where they can come back and kind of cancel the sale. So with Texas, you can actually go to, depending upon the county, you can actually, go to some of the properties and you can change the locks, you can rent properties, you can start to do minor improvements that are needed. You could do a lot of different things, but if the owner comes up with all the money, plus the penalties, plus the interest, plus the amount that you spent for your improvements, plus the attorney's fees, then they can still rescind the sale. So that's really not bad news, because you're still getting all your money back. You're not losing anything. But that's just how the process works there. All right.